and welcome to the Priggya Arora Show, where we discuss law and entrepreneurship with people who have been there and done that. My name is Priggya Arora, founder of PA Legal and Intellectual Property Law Firm, and our guest for today is very inspiring legal entrepreneur and founder of LawAsia 365. Welcome, Adeline, on the show.
Thank you, Priggya, for having me.
So how are you doing? I know the day had just begun and you are all power packed with the podcast recording.
Well, you are all power packed, so it's very early on for you. I'm happy to be here, happy to be talking to you this morning. It's a good form of Saturday.
Wow, great. So Adeline, let's start with something fun as a warm up, which is what is one thing in life you can't live without?
Wow, that is a huge power pack question. So if you ask me if there's one thing in life that I can't live without, I would say that it's a sense of purpose, because without it, days, weeks, months, and years would just be a noun rather than experiences. So having a sense of purpose in everything that we do is important, and that's something that I cannot live without.
Awesome, perfect. So Adeline, now can you tell us your life story and why did you choose law as a career?
Hope I don't bore you out, but okay, let's start with a bit of backstory. So law isn't my first choice when I was graduating from secondary school. Journalism was. Yes. When I was in Form 5, and that's the O-levels equivalent in Malaysia. My dad asked me, what course do I plan to pick up in university? And I, of course, answered very honestly. I told him I wanted to do journalism. And to his horror, he just said, no, yeah, you're not to do journalism, pick something else to do. And I was just horrified with his reaction. And I asked him why. And he said, I don't want to find you in the middle of a battlefield in some desert somewhere. And I just looked at him in disbelief. I asked him, what made you think that I would absolutely go into a journalism field that incurs this kind of risk? I could go into fashion. I could go into fashion journalism. And he just looked at me in the way that, are you kidding me? And I looked at my own closet, and he's right. He's right that I'm not the kind who would go into sports journalism or fashion journalism. I would pick up a journalism that is of higher risk, pick up a form of journalism that includes a lot of traveling, a lot of adventure. And then I understand him, because whatever he pictured in his head is eventually exactly what I'm going to go into. And I understand that he doesn't want his little girl to go into something that, incurs so much risk. So I told him, it's okay. I don't take on journalism. I will take up law instead, because I used to be a debater in school. English is something that comes naturally to me. It's my first language, one of my first languages. And I thought, okay, if you want something that doesn't require me to run around in battlefields, taking reports, I guess law is probably suitable. You go to court and you fight it out there. So it's a whole different kind of war. And so he agreed, and that's how I ended up choosing law as a subject to study. And in my second year of law school, I realized that litigation is not something I enjoy doing very much from the internships that I've been through since the first year of law school. And so I decided not to take up law practice as a career. And when I graduated, I accidentally fell into legal knowledge management instead. And I really liked it. I've learned about legal innovation and legal technology from that career. And so everything else just blossomed from there.
Awesome. So yeah, I think our parents know us better than ourselves, and they know what path we are going to choose. That's great. And Adeline, you just mentioned about knowledge management, and now you have a knowledge management company, which is LawAsia 365. Can you tell us something about how it works, what kind of work you do, what kind of customers you attract, and things like that?
So the company LawAsia 365 has gone through several phases of transformation. The first phase is when I first started off, was completely clueless. I wanted to do something that adds value to the legal practice and the legal industry. And my field is knowledge management. So I figured if I start something as a side hustle, um, and I would be able to provide services that could be of value to law firms or to in-house counsel, legal operations departments, so on and so forth. And the first phase was a pretty confused one, where I provided services that are a little bit more strategic in nature, not understanding that the market here in Malaysia is not yet mature enough to take on services like that. The market here at the point when I first started in 2018 was not very well aware of what legal knowledge management is. And it's also not very well aware of what legal tech and legal innovation is and how it could help their practice and their work. So the second phase, when I'm more branding, marketing for legal professionals, and then eventually work into knowledge management for them, was something of a discovery phase. So I discovered that I have to go through the very low-hanging fruits with the legal professionals here in the Malaysian jurisdiction in order to get some form of traction that leads them towards a proper knowledge management service. And then now we are almost at our final phase of transformation. We have launched a brand called Chambers Lab. So Chambers Lab is a service that is provided under the holding of LawAsia 365. So what Chambers Lab do essentially is to support legal professionals, independent lawyers, and small law firms, especially those that's just starting out, with legal operations backend services. So if an independent lawyer were to come out and say, hey, I want to be able to take on large cases, the ones that I used to take on when I was in a larger set of law firm, and not incur the overheads of hiring secretaries, paralegals, having associates working with me, but to be able to have the capacity to take on larger cases. What can I do? And Chambers Lab would support just that. So we were able to provide the secretarial services, the clerical services, everything a chamber set, the kind that we have in the UK, that would provide you, but we provide it virtually for law firms, small law firms that come out to set up by their own, or independent lawyers who have left a steady law firm set per se. So it's called Chambers Lab. That's what we help them do. We could also connect lawyers with people that we think it's good for them to know to grow their career. So the business development part is also one of the key things that we help our clients do. And the clients that we currently serve are small law firms as well as independent lawyers from various jurisdictions, those that are of higher cost compared to Malaysia. So that would be Singapore, Australia, the UK, so on and so forth. That's who we serve at the moment.
That's great. I think connecting the right talent is also a very huge task, and you're taking care of it, because I know like younger lawyers who just pass out after college, they also struggle finding jobs. And on one side, there are small lawyers, small law firms who also struggle with having, right talent with them. So I think that is a huge problem that you are solving, and thank you for that. And thank you for sharing the kind of work you are doing.
Thank you for having me and lending an ear.
Yeah. So Adeline, we also know that you have been part of multiple startups, you have owned multiple startups. So does entrepreneurship come naturally to you, or how did you fell in, kind of love with entrepreneurship and started in entrepreneurship?
So the best part is entrepreneurship is not my first love. I have never at the point of graduation from university thought that I would be an entrepreneur. entrepreneur to begin with. I am a rather risk-averse person, especially when I was younger, and I have always thought that I would be in a steady job, most likely in a law firm setting, doing knowledge management, and that would be my job for the rest of my life. And I was very, very wrong. So it is accidental being an entrepreneur when I first went into knowledge management, and that was 10 years ago. I started to work like an entrepreneur within the law firm that I was in. And so I assisted the management of the law firms that I was with a lot of decision making by providing them with market insights and data so that they're able to make better decisions in terms of our financial investments, in terms of succession planning, in terms of building a knowledge base, in terms of hiring, firing policies, as well as training. So those have been essential skills that I picked up over the years being an employee. And ultimately, when I figured I could add more value to the legal industry by being a third-party service provider, because I realized that in a law firm set, when you're an employee, when you provide proposals for changes, especially changes that are big in terms of impact and in terms of investment, then the management tend to either take forever to revert, or the proposal will usually be swept aside simply because it takes an enormous effort to make that change. It's not just financial investment, it's also a cultural change within the firm. And change management is always tricky because you deal with people, you deal with psychology, you deal with behavior changes. And of course, there's also politics involved because we are human beings. So I decided to start something new to avoid that kind of dilemma where I am an employee and I want to drive this change, but I cannot because I'm pending for approval. When I'm a third-party service provider, if my services has been engaged, and so that means that the organization, either the firm or the company, has agreed to certain changes to be done within the organization in order to have this service provided properly and in order to have the monies paid worthwhile. And that's the reason why I ventured into entrepreneurship in the first place. It was more of an altruistic reason than anything else. And I learned the ropes along the way. I also realized that I wasn't very, very competent. And so I picked up an MBA to pick up business acumen. It's helpful. I would say it's helpful to a certain extent. Yeah. So that's how it came along.
Wow, that's interesting because most of the mindset of an entrepreneur is very different from mindset of a lawyer. And then when we feel like, because I also have a similar story that I used to work in a law firm and then eventually I started with my own law firm because even I was looking at that change that I don't want my employees to work in this manner. I want my people to work in some different manner. That's why let me try it out. So I think it's so relatable, and I think more people should do that so that we live in a happy world.
Yeah, exactly. So Chambers Lab and LawAsia 365 has always been about creating a happy environment so that we can have happier lawyers.
Yeah.
It's a ripple effect. If you have happier lawyers, the people they serve would understand that the legal profession is not something that is scary. It's not something that is always all about, high cost. And eventually one day when we search on Google, lawyers are, and then Google will fill it up for you. Eventually one day, hopefully it will be on a positive note.
Yes, I hope so that day comes soon. I think people like you, me, and some more are working towards this manner, and we are seeing a gradual change than the traditional ways of working. Let's see what happens in the future.
Fingers crossed.
So Adeline, is it this a reason that you speak that one of your goal is to infuse humanity into law, or what do you exactly mean by that? Happy work environments, happy lawyers?
Yes, that's one of it. That's the key goal that we are working towards. So, creating an environment that is conducive enough for lawyers to be happy with what they do is how we humanize the law. It's not about the long hours. And I know there are a number of practitioners who are already used to the very long working hours. They are used to working very hard. And some wear it like a badge of honor, but others have sacrificed a lot of their hopes, dreams, ideals, as well as relationships in order to wear that badge of honor. And I don't think it is life, a good life to be led if you were to describe your life at the very end towards your sunset years, saying that it has been said. Because I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the first thing I do is check my emails. And before I go to bed at midnight, I check my emails, and everything in between the day. I do a little bit of living and it's a punctuation of life, the living. When I work the whole day and punctuate it with, a little bit of jokes here and there, a meal or two with family here and there. So it's not a happy life. And I think our society would do better when professionals like the legal industry, the engineering industry, the medical industry, are people who are happy with themselves and what they do. And that promotes innovation as well.
Correct, absolutely. I love the way you said humanizing the law. It's so important, and innovation. It's the best. I think what you said in the last about innovation is innovation can only happen when we have a free mind. Like when we have a free mind to create. Generally, what happens is the mind of lawyers are so filled up that they do not even see creativity. Like, is there a creative side of it? Is there an innovative side of this where we get freedom to innovate with our structures, with the way the law firm works, or the way we handle people, not ending up into fights again and again and things like
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. So you need the free mind, and that free mind to create, to innovate, and have that kind of freedom to do what you love the most with the utmost focus, concentration, and intention. I think is what create happier professionals. That's exactly what we're trying to do, to take away the headaches that a lawyer would usually have in terms of management, in terms of having to run their operations, in terms of having to worry about sending out invoices and collecting the unpaid bills. So if we take that away, it's some sort of a social experiment. We try to see whether or not it makes lawyers happier.
I hope you win that social experiment. If you need anything, we are here to cheer you up.
Oh, thank you, Priggya.
So Adeline, now you have multiple startups in LawAsia 365. How do you maintain your work-life balance and be a happy lawyer?
This is the best part. I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in work-life harmony. So
Wow.
work-life balance requires you to have a 50-50. So 50% work, 50% life, and then the rest will just fall around those 50-50. I realized in the many years of my work in various industries that I can never achieve a good 50-50 because that would require us to be very disciplined to say, okay, I call it a day at work. I'm not going to touch anything related to work from this time to this time. And that discipline is something that I personally don't have. If I think of something at work, something that I want to create at work with LawAsia, with Chambers Lab, with Alita, which is the organization that I'm a co-chair of currently, if there is something that we want to push and I can have my team with me to work on something that's interesting and can make a good change to the cause that we are, then we get back to the drawing board and we work on it because that's the moment that you get inspired. So I am not disciplined with a 50-50. And so I came up with the term of work-life harmony. That means if whatever you do give you a peace of mind, it doesn't eat your head. So if you are inspired to go on a walk at a park at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and that gives you peace, go do it. But not in you don't sacrifice a huge amount of, say, your professional life. You don't sacrifice a huge amount of the relationships that you cherish, and do that so long as your life is in harmony. That's what I think.
I
No
think
work-life.
that, yeah, that is really, an eye opener. And things like, I think we can involve our families also in work these days. For example, everything is online, like digital marketing kids can also do. It's not that difficult. They'll do better than us because they are well versed with the technology. So I think that family structures, if they have that harmony, they can also create harmony in a workplace. Then with teams, if there is harmony, I don't think they'll feel pressure of that work kind of thing, because
Yeah.
okay, we have ideas, let's sit together and have coffee and we discuss over it. So it is a little bit transition from general traditional law, but I think it should come because it creates much more happiness.
Yeah,
And
correct. But legal industry is a very well-established one. It's an old profession, and of course, it comes with its own nuances and traditions and
yes,
conventions.
yes,
And being an industry that is driven by societal changes, it is always not the first one to push for changes,
yes.
because it takes a very observe and then act kind of process.
Okay.
And yeah, hopefully one day the legal industry can be the more proactive one.
Mm-hmm.
But now we deal with it. Now we learn how to live with it.
I know. Even after working for a few years, you'll get gist of how this industry operates, whether you are the right fit in the industry, whether you want to do something different, and then people reach wherever they want to reach.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Adeline, now coming to our rapid fire round, very quickly answer these three questions. This is a 3-1 rapid fire round. So, three things you are grateful for.
Grateful for the air I breathe, grateful for my family, and grateful for the good people around me.
Wow, awesome. Two traits that you think are useful for a legal career.
Okay, I know this is a rapid fire round, but this is very, very vague because technically I am kind of not in a legal career, but two traits. Be intentional in what you do. So having that intention is important. And another trait is, I would say, be curious.
Yes, intention and be curious. And
Yeah.
one aspiration you have for the future.
My aspiration is always to create more joy or allow people to have more joy in the things that they do best. Wow. And so that's the aspiration that we are heading towards for LawAsia 365 and Chambers Lab.
Awesome. And now, Adeline, to conclude, can you share some key takeaways for young lawyers and legal entrepreneurs?
I would say always keep an open mind. For young lawyers, the most important thing that I think a young lawyer could do for themselves is to have good boundaries, to have good personal boundaries in terms of your energy, your relationships, your time. Because when you're young and you have an abundance of energy and you don't guard it the way you guard something that is sacred to you, a burnout is eventual. And that's not going to be good for your career progression, and that's not going to be good for your growth personally. So be a little bit selfish and draw a good personal boundary when you're working for young lawyers. For legal entrepreneurs, I mean, there are a lot of things that we can do as legal entrepreneurs to help create a better environment for the practitioners in the field. And so I think the possibility is endless. I alone or you alone, Priggya, cannot make that huge change. So if we get together, if we have a tighter knit community, get involved in the community of legal entrepreneurs, legal innovation, legal tech, and eventually you'll be able to share more knowledge and ideas where you're able to take home and implement within your home grounds, your backyard, whatever you learn from abroad. And that's exactly what I've done together with my partners.
Yeah.
We just pick up, notes, tricks, and tips from other jurisdictions and kind of try to implement it in our own backyard, see whether it helps us too.
Awesome. So I'll just reiterate a few points, which are be curious, have a curious mind, set up your boundaries. Personal boundaries are very, very important, especially in the beginning of the career. Otherwise, you'll be drained and burned out. Be part of communities, because then you get a lot of ideas, you get support, you get nurturing, you get whatever you require, and the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
Keep learning. So yes, so thank you so much, Adeline, for your time. And I think the podcast episode is full of learning, and the audience is going to love it. Thank you so much. Hey there, thank you for attending today's session. If you enjoyed today's session, do follow our channel and consider sharing it with a friend. My name is Priggya Arora, daughter of inspiring parents, alumna of IIT Kharagpur, engineer turned lawyer and entrepreneur, and now founder of PA Legal, where we help creators and innovators protect their intellectual property. Thank you.